following show is a paid program.
Family, how you doing? On today, we're going to have two guests. The first guest we're going to have is Claude Cummings Jr., and he is the District 6 Vice President of Communications Workers of America. The second half of the show, we will have Tonya Prince, founder and CEO of Sickle Cell Association of Houston. Hello, Mr. Claude Cummings. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, Mr. Hill, how are you doing today?
Man, I'm so excited to be here. I'm
so
excited to see you. I'm telling you,
Man,
every time I think of voting, I think of Claude Cummings because he is out there champion for votes. I'm telling you, he is fighting for everybody. Let's talk about what you do, District 6 VP of Communication Workers of America. What is the organization first?
Okay, so first of all, let me just say hello to you, Cam, and hello to your listening audience. Yes, I am the Vice President of Communication Workers of America. CWA nationwide represents approximately 800,000 union members across this country. We are an amalgamated union, which means we have different sectors and different types of unions that are involved with the Communication Workers of America. We have telephone company employees, we have the airline industry, we have manufacturing. We represent state employees from around the country and the different states. Again, we represent AT&T employees, Verizon employees, CenturyLink, other those smaller telephone companies, some television stations even. So we represent a good number of union members across this country, Cam. And in my particular region, I represent over 60,000 union members in 5 states: Texas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Arkansas. And again, those members that I represent in the airline industry, the manufacturing industry, state employees. As a matter of fact, the state workers in Texas are the largest union in CWA with over 14,000 union members. So I'm happy to represent those members for the last 9 years.
Now, I'm telling you, family, did you see what I'm talking about? Why I'm so excited to talk to Claude Cummings Jr.? He represents 60,000 union members, and several of them hit me up when they saw your picture. They were like, you got the man on here. They were so excited, and they were out of Missouri.
They're all great. Yeah, they're all great. I love them, and I appreciate the fact that they have given me the opportunity over the last 2 election cycles. I was just elected last year for another 4-year term.
Yes.
And they really respond to me when we need some. CWA has some type of initiative that is taking place, and I'm just so proud that they've given me this opportunity to serve them for another 4 years.
What I love about you is that really, I'm going to be honest with you, just meeting him and knowing him all these years, he's just an humble spirit. But he is truly a powerhouse when it comes to his communications of the workers of America he represents. He is a staunch person he's huge when you think about it, representing this many people, 60,000 people. In looking at your job and everything you've done, Mr. Cummings, I just want to see what are the benefits at this point when we're looking at voting. Voting is huge now.
Right. So let me mention a couple of things. When I was elected to this position in 2011, I was given 2 directives by the president of CWA. At that time, it was Larry Cohen. Right now, the president of CWA is Christopher Shelton, who has done a great job. Both presidents were great and did a lot to support me. But I'm certainly appreciative of President Christopher Shelton. But under Larry Cohen's leadership, he gave me 2 directives. Number 1 was to make sure I bargained some good contracts here because of some of the work I did as a local president in Houston. He felt like that I could really negotiate been able we have been able to do that. And the second thing he told me to do is to do everything I could to change Texas from red to
Yes.
blue. And so we have invested, and a lot of people don't know this, and I'm telling you this not to brag, but just fact.
Yes.
Over the last three election cycles, no African American man, I don't believe, has spent as much money as I have spent on GOTV programs, donations to candidates as well as GOTV programs. I've spent in excess of $10 million.
Yes.
And all of that has been spent into the GOTV in the state of Texas and the other 4 states that I represent. And so the question is, why is that so important? And let me tell you why it's important, Cam. Elections, there are consequences to elections. Consequences can be good, consequences can be bad. We're living now through the bad consequences of the last presidential election. Over 210,000 people dead due to the coronavirus because of poor leadership. Thousands of members furloughed, a lot of them my CWA members,
Yes.
in the airline industry, the state workers, and some other industries that have been furloughed. We have a president that has, for the first time in our lifetime, has caused racism to again raise its ugly head. Who would have ever thought that the danger that the American people had to be prepared for would be their president? Who ever thought that the most, that the person that we elected president was the one that was doing more damage to the American people than our enemies, outside of this country. So the bottom line is elections are important and we should get out and vote. And let me say this to you. I hear sometimes from young people that, well, you guys talk to us about what happened on Bloody Sunday. You talk to us about, what happened during the Civil Rights Movement. But I want to tell you from a different perspective. My wife, Ruth, is from Selma. Her home is only about a half a mile from the Edmund Pettus Bridge. From her homestead, which is still there, you can see the Edmund Pettus Bridge. I have spoken at the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge with President Obama and others when they have what they call the bridge crossing ceremony there every year. But every time I go to visit, I sit at that bridge and I just stand there and I look at it. And here's what I think about, Cam, is that the night before Bloody Sunday, I'm sure that there were those that were sitting in their homes, looking around their homes, tidying things up, that were saying, this may be the last night I spend in my house because I'm going out to march. They were doing this not just for us. And I want you to think about this. They were bloodied. Some died, not just for them. They understood clearly they may not see the results of what they did on Bloody Sunday. They were doing that for us, Cam. They were doing that for us, right? And so shame on us if we don't do something now, right? Grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and others that may be following us into office can say, look at what my great-great-grandfather Claude Cummings did to make sure that I had a right to vote, to make sure that we don't have Black men and women that are being killed by law enforcement unjustly, right? And some of the other bad things that are going on in this country.
Absolutely. I'm glad you spoke about that. 40 million people are unemployed. Now let's think about that. Many of them were union workers. 100 million people 4 years ago were eligible to vote and did not vote. That's statistics.
Yes.
Over 100 million people decided because they did not like the candidates, they refused to vote. So they did decide to vote.
Well, that's right. That when you don't
not
vote,
voting, it was a decision of theirs.
It's the decision of theirs, but
exactly.
you give the vote to someone else.
Exactly.
But let me say this to you, Cam. And I'm a Democrat, right? I'm a yellow dog Democrat, right? It's simple as that. And I vote the Democratic ticket. But I've been disappointed because I don't believe that the Democratic Party has delivered like they should for African Americans, first of all. But then again, our vote is taken for granted. And even now, I hear that that we have some of the same mistakes being made in some of the battleground states. So you heard me say that I've spent almost $10 million on elections.
That's true.
So what I've done is I have developed, and let me just go back and tell you so everybody understand how I developed this. When the Supreme Court decided that corporations, during Citizens United some years ago, that corporations were now people, it also gave unions something that they could do differently than before. Prior to Citizens United, unions could only use money, resources on their membership base. They could not go outside of their membership to do anything to the general population. Okay. But after Citizens United gave us the right to spend money in elections wherever and however, then I decided to develop what we call independent expenditures. And what we do with those independent expenditures, we put together tables of donors and other unions that are investing their money strictly in GOTV programs. I made a conscious decision 3 election cycles ago that I was not going to make large contributions to any particular party. I was going to cut back on my donations to candidates and put it strictly into African American GOTV programs. And what that has done, and not taking credit away from anybody else, but I believe what it has done, it has caused us to win elections that we would not have normally won because we have spent our resources strictly on African American turnout.
Yes.
And it's a layered program that we do. We do mail, radio, door knocking, before COVID, and we do phone banking, and we have some robocalls that take place.
But I wanted people to know that part.
Right.
That a lot of people, even the union members, did not know. A lot of the union members didn't know the representation that they have and how strong they are. Yeah.
That's correct. And again, labor unions, I was just on an interview a couple of minutes ago, and a young man brought up the point, that labor unions have done some great work. And we have, and let me just tell your audience briefly about how important it is to belong to a union. When it became apparent that we had a pandemic in this country, I was immediately able to get on the telephone with AT&T because, of course, when we negotiated our contract a couple of years ago, there was no COVID. So we made no type of agreement in our contracts, to deal with a pandemic. But 72 hours after it was announced that this country was going to shut down, I was able to get on the telephone with the executives of AT&T and negotiate quickly to add COVID coverage in our benefit plan, which means any member that was affected by COVID had medical coverage at no cost to them. It was paid for by the company. Not only that, I was able to negotiate an additional 20% pay raise for them, only for a specific period of time, in case their spouses were laid off. So they would have additional income coming in to take care of their families. We have thousands of members today that are still working from home because we don't want them in a call center environment.
Right.
In call centers, you have 600-700. In some call centers, we have over 1,000 people that are close together. And so we were able to negotiate with AT&T to have those call center workers, a good number of them, working from their homes. So we'll have social distancing in the workplace. So labor unions, have done more than just built the middle class in this country. And I think, the middle class would not exist if it were not for labor unions. But also on a daily basis, we do things that are needed to take care of our membership. Now, are we perfect? No. No one is perfect. But you are much better off if you're in a labor union than not being in one. Texas is a right to work state. You can get fired for anything. You can walk in and have the wrong color shirt on, and a manager is in a bad mood, and they can fire you because you have no contractual rights. That cannot be done under a CWA contract. Members have a right to fair representation, and they will get it in the workplace.
I love that. I love that. I'm so glad that you are speaking about COVID because it's so serious now. The pandemic is still going on as we speak right now.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we're,
And so I was absolutely amazed um, to watch, our president,
yeah,
first of all, um, take that motorcade ride a couple of days ago.
right.
That parade around the hospital, the wave, and then put in the danger the lives of those that were in the vehicle with him. And equally amazed at what he did on last night by going to the White House, snatching off his mask, and walking back in where people were waiting for him when he's still infected with the virus. And then to get on television and tell everybody, don't worry about the virus. Don't let it consume your life. This virus has killed over 210,000 people. And this morning I saw where it's on the rise in a lot of states
And over
again.
4 million
How in
people
the
are
world can
affected. Yeah.
the leader of the free world that has had, quickly, by Christmas time, by then we may have 250, 260,000 people
Yes.
dead because this virus is on the rise. This stupid governor of ours is talking about opening up bars and stuff again. And you know what's going to happen in bars? People don't go in bars to sit by themselves. They go
Right.
into bars to socialize. So they're
Right.
going to be in each other's faces and stuff.
Yes.
We're going to have more people sick.
Yes.
So it's ridiculous that we have a president, and not just a president, but we have governors and other leaders that feel like these states ought to be opened back up and adversely affect people in this country, and especially the way it's affecting people of color.
Yes.
1 in 5 persons that's infected by the virus is a person of color.
Yes.
And I would venture to say that the majority of them do not work on a union job that has good health care coverage.
Yes.
Cam. Simple as that. That's why, again, being in the union is so important. Having health care coverage is so important. My dad, and this is maybe something I can come and talk to you about in Black History Month or something. My dad started with AT&T in 1947 as a janitor, and I was born into 1951, right? So 4 years after he started working, he had medical coverage the first day he was on the job. And so when I was born, I was born in a good hospital, and through my whole time at home, time in college, I was covered with a health care plan.
Yes.
So my family was covered. My any ailments we had was taken care of because we had health care.
Yes.
And that's why I think it's so important that in this country we have some type of health care plan for everyone that's living in it, so we can have long, healthy lives because we have medical coverage that will take care of us and will not bankrupt us if we need to go into a doctor or a hospital.
I thank you, Mr. Claude Cummings Jr. I tell you what, I'm so floored by you, my friend. How do people get in touch with your organization and with you?
Well, yeah, you can call us at 512-330-0871. And Cam, I'd be remiss if you just give me 1 minute to talk about the NAACP, because I'm also the first vice president of the NAACP.
Yes.
And I want everyone to know that the NAACP is fighting this suppression tactic that the governor has put into place.
Yes.
We have a call center with about 25 people in it that's calling every day to remind people to vote, nonpartisan, but we're reminding everyone to vote. We're not just calling in Texas, but we're calling in the battleground states too. That's all being done right here. And if you call the NAACP in Houston, if you have a problem with your ballot, we're not going to tell you how to vote, but we will help you with any type of questions that you might have about it. Right. And there are locations around this city where you will be able to vote 24 hours a day. So we'd like to give that information to you. If you just call the NAACP office or call me, and I'll be more than happy at 713-419-6044. I'd be more than happy to direct you to get your questions answered. Know that the NAACP is doing great civil rights work, as well as our regular GOTV. I lead those efforts here in the city of Houston. So thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to say that. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be on your show. I know we've been trying to do this for a while now. You're such a well-known personality, well thought of. You talk about me. Everyone thinks so much of you. I'm humbled and honored to have the
I am
opportunity to
too,
be
my
on your
friend.
show.
Oh my God. Thank you for everything you're
Thank you.
doing. I wanted to celebrate you. And I wanted you to know from me how much you mean to Houston, how much you've done for Houston. And not
Yeah.
only, I'm telling you, family, this is not just one day, this is not 4 years. I'm telling you, Claude Cummings Jr. has done it for years. As long as he has been out, he has been beating the streets, he has been voting, he has been pushing others to
Yes.
vote, and he has been champion for other organizations. Thank you, my friend,
Right.
for
We like to
all
help.
that you do, and we appreciate you.
Well, thank you. My closing remark is this.
Yes,
I give all honor and praise to God.
yes.
I promised him many years ago that if he gave me resources and influence to be able to help his people, I would do it. So I'm keeping my promise to him. All glory to God for what he's given to me that I'm
Yes.
passing on as I promised I would do to him. I'll do if he blessed me with those abilities to be able to do it some years ago.
Well, I tell you, my friend, job well done. Thank you,
God,
thank you, thank
God
you.
bless you.
God bless
All
you,
right, thank
and
you,
God keep
thank
you.
you, and
Take
thank you
care.
for this opportunity. God keep
Oh,
you too. Bye bye.
absolutely. We're going to take a break, and we'll be back with Tonya Prince.
We'll be right back to the Cam Hill Show after these messages.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. For a limited time, get $16,000 off all in-stock Cadillac 2019 XT5 crossovers and $19,000 off all in-stock 2019 CT6 sedans. Or experience the first ever 2020 Cadillac XT6 Premium Luxury Collection, only $519 with $1 down for 39 months lease. Or purchase and receive 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
When it comes to protecting yourself and your partners, all the information out there can be overwhelming. Visit our website. We are a free and confidential service, striving to help you stay informed and stay notified. We are committed to a healthy Houston.
Houston's only Cadillac to your door dealer, Ron Carter Cadillac, delivers test drives to your home or office. Drive the new 2020 Cadillac XT4, only $399 a month, or the new 2020 XT5, only $429 a month, both for 39 months lease with just $1 down. Or purchase the XT4 or XT5 and enjoy 0.9% APR for 72 months with no payments until November. RonCarterCadillac.com.
Have you been injured in an 18-wheeler accident, truck accident, car accident? Was someone texting and ran into the back of you, not paying attention? It doesn't matter what it is. Give me a call, Attorney Willie Powles. We'll fix it today. The number is 281-881-2457. Again, that number is 281-881-2457. We'll fix it today. Call Attorney Willie Powles.
And now back to the Cam Hill Show.
Hey, thank you, family, so much for coming back. We just finished up with Claude Cummings Jr. He was District 6 VP, Communications Workers of America. We are now getting ready to talk to Miss Tonya Prince, founder and CEO of Sickle Cell Association of Houston. And we'll be talking about the effects of sickle cell on African Americans. Hey, lady, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Man, I'm so excited to talk to you on today's sickle cell. Let's discuss the effects of sickle cell on
Yes,
African Americans. You,
yes,
lady, are
yes.
championing it. I'm telling you, why sickle cell?
Well, one of the main reasons I have such an interest in sickle cell disease and hold such a huge stake in sickle cell is because I am the mother of a young adult who lives with sickle cell disease.
Mm-hmm.
And sickle cell disease is very important and prevalent amongst the African American community. However, that gap is closing between African Americans and our Latina sisters and brothers. So we want to start making sure that individuals are very well educated about who sickle cell disease is affecting at large. Right now, we're going to focus on African Americans. We just wrapped up National Sickle Cell Awareness Month in the month of September. So we have some amazing things with that last month. And we're continuing to celebrate individuals and families impacted by sickle cell disease this month as well. We call them warriors. And the reason individuals with sickle cell disease are called warriors is because they go through so much with that genetic disorder. And it really takes a true, it's very gruesome on the body. And we do our best to really try to educate African Americans in particular about sickle cell disease and what it really is. And the fact that here in the United States, many people may have sickle cell traits and not even know about it because of the level of testing that was not done for many years. Here in the state of Texas, newborn screening was mandated back in 1987. So if you were born before then, it is possible that you not even know if you have sickle cell traits and have been living with sickle cell trait and not know it. The assumption is that, oh, when I go to the doctor and they do my lab work, if it's something wrong, they'll let me know. If it's there, they'll let me know. However, that is a big myth, because there's a specific test that needs to be taken to determine whether or not you have sickle cell trait and or disease.
I love what you did. The thing I love about you, Miss Tonya Prince, is you've now dedicated your life towards an organization to help other people navigate sickle cell and also get the help with health care. You've helped them. So let's talk about your foundation of Sickle Cell Association of Houston and what all you've done. You have championed for years, and many people did not know.
Yes, sir. We are native Houstonians, my daughter and I, and we co-founded the organization together. And had it not been for her self-advocacy, we would not have Sickle Cell Association of Houston. And she was the real cheerleader behind really pushing us to have and establish something for the city of Houston. Historically, before Sickle Cell Association of Houston, we always had that staple here. But unfortunately, as time went on and things happened, so we moved back here from Dallas, Texas. We were living in Dallas for some time and came back here in 2014. And my daughter actually had an incident to occur with her here in Houston in the emergency room. And it was that event that really triggered and it really put a fire in us as a family to want to be the change that we wanted to see. And so we said that we started, instead of complaining about things, let's figure out what we can do ourselves. And once we can figure that out, we can bring other people in who, without a doubt, would be willing to help us in this process and in this journey. And since then, things with Sickle Cell Association of Houston has taken off. We became the first and only partner organization with the City of Houston and the Houston Health Department to focus specifically on sickle cell disease. And we advocated to have the establishment of a collaborative, which is now known as the Houston Sickle Cell Collaborative with the Houston Health Department. We have also worked tirelessly with Representative Jarvis Johnson and Senator Boris Miles on some legislation that we got passed, first time ever. Those men, I cannot say enough about them, who they are character-wise, who they are just as men and as human beings, and with such a heart of compassion, and just want to see the betterment for those who are living with sickle cell disease and for people of color. And so they were able to get past 4 landmark pieces of legislation that directly impacts individuals living with sickle cell disease. And so we were very excited about that and very excited to go to work together for the next legislative session. and to have other states across this nation look at Houston and Sickle Cell Association of Houston as a blueprint on how to do things. And it is amazing. And because the thing is, people are saying if laws can get passed in Texas, of all places, I have a chance in my state.
Right, absolutely, absolutely. And what we heard was 2014, and this is now 2020. And you have
Yes,
championed, you've dedicated your life.
we have, and we have to, because we are all we have. We are
Yeah.
all we have, and so sometimes you have to make those sacrifices
Yeah,
in order to, for our future generations to have a better tomorrow.
right.
And that was something that I was willing to do, and I'm thankful to God that I have a spouse who can, who can pull both ends,
Right.
to make sure we can maintain a certain quality of life that we like to live here at home. And the one thing that we wanted to do when we first started the organization, we wanted to make sure that we were an organization that was, we were not about the fluff. We wanted to educate, but we wanted to also make sure that we had some of the most impactful programming in place that will get a person into a better situation than they were yesterday. So we make sure that we identify individuals who are solely relying on their hematologist, which is the physician that they generally see for sickle cell. We
Right.
wanted to help them start expanding their use of their physician network. So we started by making sure that they had primary care physicians. We wanted to make sure that you have a cardiologist in place, or as well as a pulmonary specialist, because these are other physicians and specialty providers that you have to have in place with living with sickle cell. Because one of the things that sickle cell disease can do, as I mentioned earlier, it can really put a strain on your body.
Yes.
We have some 20-year-olds and some 30-year-olds, they're 20 and 30 on the outside, but their skeletal system, their muscular system, it probably looks like someone who's 80 years old.
Yes.
It's nothing to see an individual with sickle cell to have already experienced hip replacements and knee replacements because of the medical manifestations of sickle cell disease. And it's very important that people understand that this is a true, the severity of this disease.
Right.
And so it's very important that we have proper education about sickle cell disease. All too often, we run into individuals who say, "Oh, yeah, I know about sickle cell disease. I've gone to school with people with sickle cell disease." But when we provide them with the education
Yes.
and talk to them about the effects of sickle cell, and and talk to them about a 5-year-old or a 3-year-old having strokes at such a young age because of sickle cell. And these are things that people don't know, that these are the true realities that these people face what living with this disease.
Absolutely. Let's jump right in. COVID has happened. And it
Oh,
has been debilitating to so many. And then you have on top of that sickle cell trying to get to the hospitals, trying to get through emergency rooms. Yes.
yes. So when COVID first happened, the anxiety level of the community was out of the roof.
Right.
Because the first thing they're saying is that I have sickle cell disease. I absolutely cannot afford to contract COVID.
Right.
I cannot get a respiratory infection, because one of the things that is pretty common in individuals with sickle cell disease, some of them may not have their spleen. And the purpose of the spleen is to help fight off bacteria infections and to help safeguard you against infection. And so that was one of the anxiety pushers, is that, what happens if I don't have my spleen and I contract COVID or some other respiratory issue. And also with individuals with sickle cell disease, they are one of the most vulnerable populations with our elderly because of the nature of their disease. So they can't go and sit in these emergency rooms where there's potential to contract COVID. So what's happened is, and I'm sort of glad to be a part of this experience a little bit on the if I could say anything positive about COVID, is that it has allowed us to expand the way we are conducting business around related to medicine, because
Right.
now more physicians are doing more telemedicine, and really, to me, taking on a much more innovative approach to healthcare in
Yeah.
that sense, and trying to keep folks safe. One of the things we've also done around COVID is we have had 2 distributions of COVID kits. These are in-home COVID kits that we've been distributing to individuals and families who live with sickle cell. And in these kits, we have everything from over-the-counter pain meds, disinfectants, non-perishable items. I mean, there are stuff full of things that many people with sickle cell disease primarily use. And so we wanted to make sure that we are, keeping the community covered
Yes.
however we can. Yes, sir. And we also are still assisting patients with rides to not just their medical visit, but if they need to get to the grocery store, if they need to go do laundry. So we're assisting them. We try to do it as holistically as we possibly can to make life a little bit easier and a little bit better for the families with sickle cell disease here in the city of Houston.
Absolutely. I love that. An upcoming event you have.
Yes, yes, yes. I am so excited about this walk. We have the Houston's Amazing Race and 5K. And I can say we would have never thought the amount of support we've received on this walk. So we started the walk September the 1st, and the walk goes all the way through October the 31st. So everyone can still join in on the fun.
Yes.
We're giving away prizes. We try to keep it as normal as we possibly could. We try to keep it as interactive as we possibly could. And in this walk, we also are educating people. And so we're asking you to walk with a warrior through the wards. And so people will take an interactive journey through wards 1 through 6. And they're going to learn some historic things about some of these wards that you may not have known. You're also going to learn more about sickle cell disease as you interactively walk and you gain your badges. You get badges through your milestones. And we're asking everyone to participate at their own leisure. We have 3 options. They can choose the 5K or the 1K walk, or they can do the step challenge where you take 7,665 steps per day for 60 days or for however many days you decide to join in. It's totally fine. But the symbolism behind the steps, that 7,665, that number represents the number of days that it took the sickle cell disease community to receive just 3 treatment options. And if you convert those days into years, that is 21 years. It took 21 years to get something on the shelves for individuals with sickle cell disease. And not saying that all those treatments would be agreeable, but it took us that long to get something. And so I tell people all the time, and I encourage people to learn about clinical trials and studies. Let's talk about whatever those fears and reservations there is about clinical trials and studies in the sickle cell community. Because all too often, the one thing we hear a lot is that, other causes like HIV, they have all these medications and so we have to have those candid conversations and those real conversations about what got those medications there. And part of what got those medications there was people who decided to pay it forward in a sense and participated in clinical trials and studies. And so we definitely have had those conversations, and we want to have more conversations around that and what that fear is about in our community. And we want to join in on this awesomeness that we have going on here and celebrating African Americans in any way that we can, and not just our Black sisters and brothers, but our brown sisters and brothers too, who are also impacted by sickle cell disease. And many people don't know that people of Turkish and Greek and Italian and descent, they live with sickle cell disease. And ironically, they struggle with some of the same challenges that people of color struggle with when they go to the emergency room.
Right.
They are asked and tested to make sure that they have sickle cell, because people assume that because you're white or because you're Latina, you couldn't possibly have sickle cell disease. So we work really hard at trying to change the narrative around those stereotypes and really educate people about sickle cell disease.
I love the fact, like I said before, Miss Tonya Prince, my God, all the work over the years that you have done. I will be remiss if I did not mention my friend Carla Coleman, who is out
Yes,
there constantly fighting and constantly champion for the
oh,
cause.
she is a huge advocate and a huge supporter of Sickle Cell Association of Houston. I don't know what I would do without that woman. And it was very interesting how we met. We were
Yes.
doing some outreach, and we were at a clinic, and she overheard a conversation, and we have been together like glue since. And I'm so grateful for
Yeah.
her and her enthusiasm.
Yes.
It's just her willingness to really want to help um, get the voice, amplify the voice of sickle cell disease,
Yes.
and make sure we are really educating our communities, not just for sake of, but we want to make sure that those behind us can now go and say, I'm considering, planning a family. Let
Yes.
me go get tested. That's one thing. Most of the time, women are pretty well versed on who they are, what's genetically running in their families. But our men and boys,
Well,
it's just like, oh.
don't talk about us, Tonya. Hold up, Mama.
So we have to make sure that we get our men and boys
Right.
into a place where they're much more proactive in their health
Yes.
care versus reactive. And so that's all I'm going to say about men. But what I will say about men, and especially men living with sickle cell disease, I really would love anyone to come out and listen to what a lot of these men have to say
Yes.
about living with sickle cell disease.
Yes.
Oftentimes when we hear caretaker, people think of moms and grandma and aunties, but you never think about men and the unique challenges that men with sickle cell disease are often faced with.
Yes.
We hear story after story of when individuals in totality with sickle cell, but particularly men with sickle cell disease, when they go into the emergency room in 2020 and they are being treated like they're drug seekers,
Yes.
simply because they know what works for them and what does not work for them. And so we really have some more educating to do inside the healthcare delivery system infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're going to work on next, because we have to get them to move past a lot of these antiquated policies and processes that simply does not work with
Right.
today, what's going on in today. And so, and we have to get them to stop feeding and buying into these stereotypes and focus on symptoms and diagnosis, and
Right.
look at their history. Look at their medical history if they've already been at your facility. So, I tell people all the time, these individuals, they don't want to just get out of their bed and go drag themselves into an ER, to get high. No one wants to do that.
Right.
And oftentimes, if a person with sickle cell disease is having a crisis and has decided to go to the emergency room, it is truly an emergency.
Right.
It's truly an emergency. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely.
It really is. And
I
I'm
also want
thankful
to say
for
once again to Jarvis and with State Representative
Yes.
Jarvis Johnson and Senator Boris Miles, definitely Senator Boris Miles. Thank God for
Yes.
both of them for doing
Oh,
everything
yes.
that they have done for this organization.
They are a tremendous support, and in fact, I feel like they're just the godsend.
Yes.
Senator Miles. I
Mm-hmm.
always often refer to him as Mr. Remarkable. He is such an amazing individual, and I remember when we had a hearing and we testified before the health committee, and for him to share his personal story and journey
Yes.
and support us in the way that the community really needed to be supported and had not been supported for a while. And I think both his presence and Representative Johnson's presence, it has really made other legislators and leaders step forward and step up a little
Mm-hmm.
bit in other states, because I think that they have been inspired by their actions and their level of support here in the state of Texas for the sickle cell disease community. And so I am forever grateful to them. And the community will always be forever grateful for what they have done for them. And they have, Mr. Cam, they have done something that hadn't been done before. One of the biggest things that Representative Johnson and Senator Miles was able to accomplish was to get sickle cell disease added to the PMB. And because what happened was when we got this fight against opioids came along, because that is the only thing that sickle cell patients were being able to be treated with alongside hydroxyurea, because there were no therapeutic options. Oftentimes they would get flagged in the system and they would not be able to get their medications for their pain. So the work that these legislators did was they got sickle cell disease added as an exclusion or as an exemption along with cancer and hospice patients, which was a huge win. I mean, it was a huge win for the sickle cell disease community. And so that they wouldn't have to just sit and lie and suffer in silence. And so I'm forever grateful about that, and just the level of compassion
Right.
and just the human side
Yes.
that they share um, through their actions and being willing to kick some doors down on behalf of a community at large. It says a lot about who they are as men.
Yes, I agree with that. I truly, truly agree. And going
Yes,
forward, how do people sign up for the walk?
yes. So what we would like to do is our goal is 500. We know we can get there. We would like people to go to www.sicklecellhoustonwalk.org and sign up. You can sign up as an individual. You can sign up on a team. It doesn't matter how you choose to do that. You can do it however what's most comfortable for you. But we need the support of our communities of color. We need the support of our leadership here in the city to help us amplify and unite and rally around the sickle cell disease community. We have so much further to go. We need so much money towards research. We need lots of funds towards education. So we have a ways to go. I tell people all the time, in comparison to cystic fibrosis that affects only a third of the population of sickle cell disease, about approximately 100,000 in the US live with sickle cell disease. But when you do trying to do an apples to apples comparison, cystic fibrosis is funded more than 7 to 10 times more than sickle cell disease.
Wow.
Cystic fibrosis primarily affects white women.
Mm-hmm.
However, we need to really get around, and I'm going to challenge, many of our civic organizations to really rally around and truly support the sickle cell disease community, because we need it. We really
Yes,
do.
absolutely. I surely appreciate you, and I'm so
Thank you
glad
so
that
much.
you were able to come on, because I'm excited about the
Yes,
walk.
sir.
I'm so
Yes,
excited
sir.
about what you're doing, because during this
Thank you
COVID
so much.
time, even before now, sickle cell was, there was a, large organization and problems with it. But now that we
Yes,
have sickle cell and COVID, and then trying to get through the hospital it's crazy. It's
it is.
gone
It is. It
beyond.
is.
Yeah.
It is an insane time, but we are
Yes.
working through it.
Yes.
We're making sure we keep the families and individuals as safe as possible. And
Exactly.
by the way, we still have a ton of PPE that individuals and families can come pick up from the office, or we can deliver it to you. We actually was making deliveries, so we can
Yes, I
deliver those things
remember.
to you. those individuals in need. And our job, our job here at Sickle Cell Association of Houston is one thing, and that's just to be of service.
Yes.
To be of service and to be committed to this community, because it's really needed. It's really needed right now.
I thank you, lady, for everything you've done and everything you are doing. I'm so proud of you. Keep going. God
Thank you
bless
so
you
much.
and God keep
Yes, sir.
you. Thank you, thank you,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
you.
On tomorrow, we will have Michael Sterling. He's a filmmaker, director, producer, actor. You do not want to miss him. And he's local in Houston and travels all over the world. We'll be here 12:30 to 1:30 tomorrow, Central Standard Time. Bye.
The Cam Hill Show. If you'd like to advertise your business or become a sponsor, contact the Cam Hill Show at gmail.com.